Welcome, everyone, to our January webinar. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to all. My name is Dub Taylor. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Texas PACE Authority. And today, the topic of our T5 webinar is energy efficiency programs that are operated by investor-owned utilities. And we have a special guest with us that will be covering the majority of that, Amy Martin, who I'll introduce when we get to her segment. And this is one of the Texas PACE Authority's series of webinars that we call T5, the TPA's third Thursday at 2 training. So today is the first third Thursday at 2 of 2024. And welcome to the first webinar of 2024. And we'll get started now. So today's webinar, just some housekeeping. Everyone is muted and video is disabled. So please use the Q&A that's at the bottom of the screen or the chat. The Q&A is better because then we can see what the questions are more clearly, and we can keep up with those and make sure that we've answered them. We should have time by the end of the webinar to respond to any questions that have come up. If not, then we will make sure that you get those questions answered after the webinar. So by attending today, after the webinar, you'll receive a survey, and please let us know if this was helpful, what was most relevant, how we can improve the webinars going forward. You'll also get a copy of the slide deck that will have the embedded links. There'll be a lot of resources provided, so you can click directly on those and access those resources later. And then also, if you need a certificate for professional development hour, for engineering or other continuing ed requirements, we can provide that to you as well if you request it. So when you receive that survey response questionnaire, just indicate that you'd like the PDH certificate. And then the webinar also is being recorded, and it'll be available on our website and our YouTube channel after we conclude today. So with that, our agenda, pretty concise today, a little bit of background of PACE. We're going to jump then into the utility efficiency programs, look at some case studies that tie PACE and utility incentives together, provide a list of resources, and then take Q&A at the end. So with that, why PACE? So this is the problem that PACE was really designed to help address. And that is that business owners, these are commercial property owners, intuitively know that they can save money over the long run by investing in higher efficiency energy and water upgrades to their property. The challenge, however, is that these upgrades are costly, and given other competing priorities for operating capital, oftentimes these get missed. Not a priority. You're trying to make payroll. You're trying to grow your business. And so the result of not addressing older equipment upgrades is that when they fail at the wrong time of year. This time of year is when heating systems fail and boilers fail and piping systems are overtaxed. During the summer, that's when you can expect chiller failures. So they get replaced on an emergency piecemeal basis, really no optimization, and oftentimes at a premium cost. So that's a challenge. The other challenge is with new construction, budgets always being tight, things that live behind the walls, so the MEP systems, are really the first things that get cut. It's not the equivalent in a home would be, you have granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, and then you have the lowest efficiency air conditioner possible because it's in the attic or behind the walls where no one can see it. Same thing happens in a commercial setting. And so these decisions made at the front end go on to really haunt the building and the owner through its life cycle. So PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, was created. This is an innovative financing tool that provides long-term financing for energy efficiency, water conservation, distributed energy projects. This is private financing that is secured through a special local property assessment, which makes it similar to the way a mortgage is tied to long-term financing for a home. So it de-risks the loan and allows a lender to extend the loan term to where it matches the useful life of whatever is being financed. So that means the project can cash flow day one and throughout the term of the financing. PACE was authorized under state law, Local Government Code Chapter 399. Local governments then set up local PACE programs, either at the city or the county level. And any commercial property owner can access PACE. Once that's done, any contractor can do the retrofit work, any lender can provide the financing. So it's an open market system. And PACE can be used for commercial properties, multifamily, ag, and manufacturing. The only type of property that can access PACE is single family residential. So this is a commercial financing program. The big difference between PACE and conventional financing is that if you were to knock on the door of your lender as a property owner and say, I need to retrofit or replace my HVAC or mechanical systems, that would be a conventional equipment loan, probably with a 5-year term. So all of your repayment happens in the very first part of that equipment's life. So your payments are much higher than the benefits that are achieved through the more efficient equipment. You're in a cash flow negative situation there. And that's just the nature of what is unsecured equipment financing under a conventional arrangement. With PACE, having the local government assessment provide security and de-risk the loan again, now the lender will extend the term of the PACE loan to that equaling the life of whatever's being financed. So increased net operating income, cash flow positive day one. That's the big difference. And so PACE through the years, as it's been enabled in Texas, we've now seen sort of hockey stick growth. If you look at the chart on the left, and this totals about $460 million of investment through PACE. Half of this in energy efficiency, a third water conservation projects, and 12% distributed generation, pretty much all of that on-site solar. And this falls into the commercial retail sector, office, hotel, hospitality, nonprofit, and industrial. So the types of improvements that can be financed through PACE are generally described in this yellow box. So if it can reduce energy or water usage or generate power on site, then PACE financing can be accessed. So on the energy side, high efficiency HVAC systems, lighting upgrades, building energy management systems, building envelope improvements, on-site distributed renewables, and other DG systems. And then on the water side, a whole host of water conservation as well. Since we're talking about utility incentives today and electric utility specifically, most of what will be covered is going to be here on the energy side. And moving right into that, I'm going to turn this over to Amy, our guest today. And again, Amy, thanks for making the time and joining us this afternoon. She's going to dive into the utility energy efficiency programs, how they work, and a little bit about Amy. She is the Vice President of Consulting and Engineering for Frontier Energy, and she's been working in the energy space for 15 years and currently leads a team of designers, data scientists, and consultants to design, implement, and evaluate energy efficiency, renewable energy, and electric vehicle programs. Prior to joining Frontier, Amy worked at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and the Electric Power Research Institute. She holds a BS in biology from the University of Texas at Austin and a master's of public affairs from the LBJ School at UT Austin as well. So Amy, let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dub. And thanks for having me here today. I'm happy to help spread the message about the utilities energy efficiency programs and how they can really benefit PACE participants. Because PACE has been in the conversation for a long time, and we've had a few projects come through, which I know Dub is going to highlight later on. But I think there's opportunities for way more. And I'm here today as a Frontier employee, but representing EUMMOT. And why am I here speaking to you instead of the utilities? Well, that kind of goes to the role that we play within the EUMMOT organization. And so, Dub, you can probably go ahead and skip down to slide 4 for me, please. At Frontier, we do a lot of work with the investor-owned utilities on energy efficiency programs, whether that be implementing things, administering them, software databases, and TRM development. And the biggest piece and why I'm here today is general regulatory support. And I do help administer the EUMMOT group. So then we keep throwing out this term EUMMOT. So some of you may know who that is, some of you may not. So on the next slide, I give you an overview of who EUMMOT is and what the purpose is. And in a nutshell, it's the Electric Utility Marketing Managers of Texas, which is a super outdated name, but we keep it just because it's so easy to say. It really is just a collection of all the energy efficiency program managers from each of the 8 investor-owned utilities. And our goal is to have a single voice when we're dealing with energy efficiency matters at the Public Utility Commission of Texas. It helps us make sure we're running the programs well, following regulatory guidelines, and just have a really good open communication with the PUC and their consultants so that we make sure these programs benefit as many people as possible. So you can see the members of EUMMOT. So I may refer to interchangeably today either EUMMOT or the Investor and Utilities. It's these 8 guys right here. And 4 are ERCOT utilities and 4 are non-ERCOT utilities. And on the next slide, you'll see their service territories, which is kind of a super high level overview of where each of these guys operate. As you know, in the state of Texas, things can get down to a very detailed level. So maybe on the left side of the street, you may have an Encore property, and on the right side of the street, it may still be tied to a city. So I encourage you to go check out those utility websites to get a little more precise view of those service territories. And Dub, I'm not sure if my slide is a little behind, but yeah, there we go. So these are the service territories, and this was put together by the PUC's EM&V consultant Tetra Tech. So thanks Tetra Tech folks for letting me borrow that. Okay, so now you know how Frontier helps EUMMOT, who the utilities are within EUMMOT, and you know that they run energy efficiency programs. But why do these programs even exist, and what do they really mean? So on the next slide, what we have here is just a broad overview. These were actually created back in 1999 during a legislative session. They came about as a result of deregulation. So they said, okay, we're going to deregulate the utilities. And as part of that, the regulated entities are going to have to offer energy efficiency programs to reduce demand and save energy. And so that was codified in PURA, and it lays out the broad goals of what the utility programs should do. Public Utility Commission of Texas is the one actually in charge of overseeing those programs. And there's a few different rules, but if you're really run out of reading material and you want to learn all the ins and outs of the programs, I'd encourage you to check out 25.181. That's the nuts and bolts of these programs. It tells you what the goals are, what types of programs they can run, how they can run them, and how they need to prove that what they're doing is following in line with commission guidelines. So how the program's been doing to date? They've been doing quite well. You know, this is just a snapshot of the past few years, but historically they've been exceeding statewide goals, and pretty consistently we're getting to that 500 megawatt demand reduction and over about 700 gigawatt hours of energy savings. So that's a lot of savings. There are a lot of projects going on throughout the state of Texas, and they've all been very successful to date. To get to this level of savings, they are spending approximately $140 million. And the next slide will show you about how much each utility is spending per year and some broad savings projections that are tied to that spending level. And you'll notice the biggest utilities in the state, CenterPoint and Encore, obviously spend the most because they have the most customers. And that is tied to the regulatory goals. So higher the goal, the more you need to spend to hit those required targets. Now, these are 2023 projected budgets and savings, and that's just because we haven't hit our April 1st filing deadline. On April 1st, you will see final actual results from the utilities for 2023 and 2024 projections. But in general, you know, they will change year to year and utility to utility, but this is a really good ballpark of what you'll expect to see in this coming year in terms of what each utility is going to spend and how much energy they're going to try and hit. And I'll show you how to access those filings in the future because as Dove and I were talking, we're talking about 8 different utilities, and yeah, the programs are similar, but there are a lot of intricacies within each. So my goal today is to teach y'all how to fish so you can find the information you need and get to the right spot so that you can hopefully leverage those PACE financing options with the utility energy efficiency programs. On the next slide, I really wanted to highlight one thing about the PUC's oversight of these programs. According to the energy efficiency rule, they are required to hire an independent evaluation, measurement, and verification contractor, or an EM&V team, just to add to your list of acronyms to learn today. And their job is to verify the savings and compliance with regulatory and statutory objectives. They do a lot of work to try to improve the programs, make sure that what's being done in the field aligns with regulations, and works very closely with all the utilities and the PUC just to make sure the programs are running as efficiently as possible. And one of the biggest things they do, and that Frontier works very closely with EUMMOT and the PUC on, is develop the technical reference manual. And what this is a giant instruction manual comprising all the eligible measures that can receive funding through the energy efficiency programs. Um, this thing is massive. It's over 1,000 pages long now. It's got a ton of engineers working on it, trying to tell you exactly how much savings can be captured from multifamily heat pump installations. And so it really is a great source of information. Um, the reason I think this audience today will care about this is because my guess is, and Dub, we can jump to the next slide. If you're going to run a PACE project, and it's going to incorporate a lot of high efficiency energy measures, my guess is it's in the TRM. And if it's in the TRM, I can almost guarantee that there's probably a way for you to leverage those utility incentives. And I think that that's the biggest message today is if you're installing these common commercial HVAC units, lighting, even solar applications or electric vehicle chargers, food service equipment, smart thermostats, cool roofs. I mean, the list really does just go on and on in type of the eligible measures that are a part of these utility programs. So by knowing which measures are eligible, and I'm sure you're probably installing those types of measures in your PACE projects, now we're getting you one step closer to figuring out, hey, I know I'm going to be doing a lot of multifamily heat pump installations. Maybe I should check with TNMP to see if they have incentives for those. So again, check out the TRM. I'll show you how to access that a little bit later, but it really is an excellent resource for the programs and for y'all. I hope down the line. So as I mentioned, all the programs run slightly different programs. In a giant nutshell, what they try and do is they take a mix of TRM measures and they structure them into different program designs. But all of them are focused at the same three customer classes. You have commercial, residential, and then hard to reach and low income customers. I know Doug referenced earlier that single family residential homes aren't eligible for PACE, but multifamily are. So you may see a utility program list, and it may say residential, low income residential SOP or something along those lines, maybe kind of vague. Just because it says residential, don't think that your PACE project doesn't apply. It very well could, because a lot of multifamily projects, it might fall under somebody's commercial program design, it might fall under a residential design, or it may fall under a low income program design. So if you're not sure exactly which one it is, don't think that a residential program within one of these IOU areas wouldn't apply to your PACE project, because it very well could. And I think that's an important takeaway for today. The other component of this are program designs, and just real high level, you have three main types: standard offer programs, market transformation programs, and low income. If you see something labeled as a commercial standard offer program, that's something where you probably have an experienced contractor or building owner who understands the process, who's going to work through, for example, AEPs, sign up, apply for funds, be awarded funds, and then run the programs on their own. It's a real streamlined way for folks who understand the efficiency measures and how the programs work to get funding and be successful at projects. Market transformation programs are also very streamlined, but with the added benefit that they have an implementer. So there may be somebody like ClearResult or Frontier or Franklin or somebody else out there working with the utilities to help kind of hold the hand of the building owner. So maybe you're a building owner, you want to do some lighting upgrades, you're not really sure what it is, you're in El Paso service territory. We can go and contact those guys and ask them, hey, do you have any options for me? And they may direct you to their market transformation program implementer, who can review your PACE project and let you know if it is or isn't eligible and kind of walk you through the process. So, you're going to see a ton of different program types and names, which might make it feel overwhelming. This image on the right is a list of CenterPoint's programs from 2023. You've got 15, 20 different programs. May not be sure exactly which one might fit your PACE program the best. Well, I think the message today is, don't stress out too much about it. Talking to all the utilities of the past month, preparing for this, the message is, just reach out to us. And if you have questions, you think you have an idea, reach out to us and we'll direct you to the right program. So I kind of jumped ahead there myself, but with that being said, I have talked a lot in general, but I know you guys want to know a little more in the weeds. So, which utilities are offering what, and how can I actually end up participating in these programs? Um, Resources are going to be your best friend. There is a website out there run by EUMMOT and administered by Frontier called texasefficiency.com. It will link you to so much stuff. You can get lost in there for a while, but it really is a one-stop shop for whatever you may need to pull up. It's going to have utility program filings, resources from the Public Utility Commission, um, overviews of programs, and most importantly, it's going to have links to the utility websites themselves. And that's where you can get into the weeds and really find out, okay, here's the exact programs these guys are going to offer in 2024. And it will also provide you direction on how you can potentially participate in those projects, how you can sign up. Every single program will have a manual, which will be super in the weeds to tell you this is how you can qualify to be, for example, a commercial implementer. This is the process to do so. If you're approved, here are the requirements you'll have to follow to successfully complete projects. And oh, by the way, here are the incentive levels that you could get paid for the installation of this high efficiency heat pump. All the incentive levels will typically vary from utility to utility and from measure to measure. But I think between those incentive levels and the TRM, which provides the savings, you should be able to get a ballpark estimate of potential utility payments for some of your PACE projects. So beyond that, obviously the PUC website is an excellent resource. Also, it includes all the filings that the utilities are required to do each year. Most importantly, probably for this audience, is the Energy Efficiency Plan and Report filed annually by April 1st, where you will find plans for exactly what types of programs they're going to offer, projected budgets, savings, and that level of detail. Also wanted to take a second and plug the Energy Efficiency Implementation Project, which is something the PUC puts on every year. It's a way to get people, stakeholders involved in the process. So you can learn about how the programs work, you can get to know the utilities and the program managers, and your voice can be heard in terms of the TRM. Perhaps you have a new measure that's actually not in the 1,100 pages of the TRM that you think should qualify for incentives. That's a great place for you to get involved, throw out your ideas, and see if it's something that we can help improve all the programs. So now we know what the programs are. We know which utilities are involved. We know how to access some of those program details. What might this process end up actually looking like if I have a PACE project? It's obviously going to vary, but at the highest level, you're going to have a PACE project in mind, and you're probably going to know which utility service area it's in. So let's say you're out in El Paso. You may reach out to the El Paso program managers via their website. Some of them will have direct contact information. Some of them will just have a link to a page. But either way, reach out to them via that website, put in your project details. And at that point, you can talk to them and figure out, okay, is this a residential program? Is this a commercial program? Does this make more sense to be a low income program? And is the timing going to work out for this program year? I have that bar at the bottom, which isn't quite a timeline. It extends past December because while the utilities are required to run programs January 1st through December 31st of each year, I know these PACE projects have a slightly different timeline, and that may be challenging for some people. But I think if you reach out early enough to the program managers, you can find a way to work the timeline such that the utilities are able to pay for a project and claim the savings for the project within the same year, which is what they're really focused on. So again, it really all just goes back to talking to the right people as early as possible in the process to make sure the program can participate, take advantage of its incentives, and be successful. Dub, I hope I'm doing okay on time here. I'll speed up.
Good. Yep.
Okay. I just threw some snapshots in here, texasefficiency.com. Again, you can go there and access all the utility websites. We've just redone it. We're still in the process of tweaking it a little bit, but it has a good feel to it, and it really does have a ton of information. The next slide shows you an example of AEP's energy efficiency website, just a snapshot. So if you know that you're operating down in South Texas and you have a commercial facility you're looking to involve in a PACE project, you can go to the AEP website, explore the different commercial program offerings, kind of get an idea of which measures are covered within each program. And you may figure out that the commercial standard offer program is perfect for you. Read the user guide and go ahead and register to participate. If you're not quite sure if that's the right program, through that registration process, there's a contact information. You can just reach out to the program manager and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. Do you think this would qualify? Can you please help me out? And it really is that simple. Very similarly, TNMP is the next example. Again, overview of what the programs are, and they actually have a contact us form right on their website. And I did ask the utilities, I said, should we try and streamline this process? Is there an easier way to do it? And I think we all agreed that if we get to the point where the program managers are being inundated with PACE project requests, I think that's a great thing, right? And we'll figure out how to streamline that on the back end. But for now, because we haven't seen a ton of these things come through, and because we know that they are going to need a little bit of hand-holding, probably at least through the initial steps, just to make sure things will work within the timing and the incentive designs offered for the program year, going through these contact forms is really probably the best approach for everybody. So just to wrap up, the goal is obviously to leverage utility programs with PACE money. And, we've gone through the significant opportunities here at a super, super high level, but there's also challenges, and we recognize those. And, I would encourage y'all to reach out to me or any of the utility energy efficiency program managers to tell us about the roadblocks you've been facing so that we can try and work together to overcome those. The ones that kind of rise to the top whenever PACE comes up is, again, the timing issue. I mentioned the fact that the utilities have to pay for a project in the same year they claim the savings. So if you've got a PACE project that's going to take a couple years or run, July to May, you just have to work through some of those issues on a project by project basis. Funding can also be an issue. Two ways of that. One, a lot of these utility programs will run out of funds before the end of the year, especially if they're for programs that are very popular. I've heard more of the other issue, though, potentially, where some of these PACE projects are really amazing and they're really high dollar projects. So the utility incentive at the end of the day may not be a very high percentage of the overall project cost, and people may not feel like it's worth the effort to go through the process. I would encourage you to not feel that way. Again, I know some things can feel overwhelming with all the jargon and requirements, but I think these guys, the utility program managers, are open to working with you and making it easy as possible. And the last thing is why we're here today. A lack of awareness and understanding on the programs. Hopefully today has helped y'all figure out, where you can find more information and how to contact the people in charge so that they can help you have successful PACE programs. And again, the way to overcome the barriers is just to communicate and to reach out. And I never thought I'd have a slide with Depeche Mode, Diana Ross, and the Four Tops on it, but they've all got great songs about reaching out. And so I encourage you to channel those great bands and reach out to me or the utilities, and we'll be happy to help you understand the programs and see if you can take advantage of these funding opportunities. So Dub, hopefully I didn't take too much of the time, but I appreciate y'all for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions now or at the end, whatever makes the most sense.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, before we begin to wrap up, a couple of questions that came in. The first one, we tend to speak in acronyms. It just, we can't help that. And I think I'm the first one guilty of that. I mentioned MEP and just rattling that off. So MEP is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Generally, those are the systems within the building that we see most often addressed through PACE financing. I started to write down acronyms after that, but I ran out of paper because this is an acronym heavy business. But yeah, please, if there's anything that's not intuitive, let us know. The other question that came up is Pedernales Electric Cooperative an investor-owned utility? And the answer is no. The utilities that Amy mentioned are those that offer the program she described. There is consistency among those programs and oversight by the Public Utility Commission as they were established in state law. Electric cooperatives and municipally owned utility. So any electric cooperative like Pedernales or any municipally owned utility like Austin Energy, CPS in San Antonio, New Braunfels Utility, Garland, et cetera. They offer different types of energy efficiency programs, really sort of depending on their overall structure, their priorities, where they see opportunities to reduce demand and do it in a targeted fashion. So they're similar in the way that they're designed, but they're not part of the investor-owned utility program. So we're talking, I think, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but roughly 70% of the state, is that right? That's covered by investor-owned utilities, maybe more.
Yeah, I think it's actually a little more than that. Yeah, maybe in
Okay.
the 80s is the last time, but it's a huge chunk of Texas. But yeah, like CPS Energy San Antonio, Austin Energy, Pedernales Electric Co-op, like Dub's saying, those are all outside of the UMMOT group. They are not
Yep.
investor-owned utilities and thus not regulated by the PUC to offer energy efficiency programs. That being
Yep.
said, a lot of them do offer energy efficiency programs. They're just a different from the ones I've been addressing today.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so kind of moving on to some case studies and how does PACE and these incentives tie together. So the Texas PACE Act that authorized PACE financing passed the legislature back in 2023. Widespread support both in the House and the Senate. It landed on Governor Perry's desk. He signed it, and it took effect immediately. So then some structure was put around how the PACE programs could work. Since then, 94 cities and counties have created PACE programs. This covers about 73% of the state's population. So if you look at the shaded counties here, those are the county programs. The stars are where there's a city program, and then the little light bulbs are where there is a project. So this is all on our website. Our role in all of this, the Texas PACE Authority, is to really serve as the outsourced PACE department, if you will, for the cities and counties that set up PACE programs. That is our only role. We are a nonprofit created specifically to do that work. We sort of jokingly say that we referee the transactions. We make sure that they are in compliance with the authorizing state law, program guidelines, et cetera. So we really serve that extended governmental purpose. The private transaction is between the property owners, the contractors and service providers, and the capital providers. They put the deal together and then they present it for PACE financing. So some of the key underwriting criteria for PACE that we ensure that the projects all meet are listed here. I'm going to go through them a little bit quickly, but savings to investment ratio, I'm going to come back to this. The idea is that the savings from a PACE finance project is going to be equal to the cost for the owner over the life cycle of whatever is being financed. So it's designed to be budget neutral at worst, cash flow positive at best, and really by design. So we identify what the operating and utility savings are, how those compare to the cost, and that all is reviewed by a licensed Texas engineer to ensure that what is being presented is reasonable. So a savings to investment ratio of 1 or greater is required for PACE eligibility. So that's the life cycle savings compared to the overall cost of the project. Another criteria, loan to value. So a PACE loan can be up to 25% of whatever the appraised value of the property is. And then the term is not predefined. It's really based on whatever the weighted useful life of the PACE finance measures is. So, for example, solar panels typically have a 20 to 25-year warranty. For tax depreciation purposes, 25 years is what's used for depreciation. So a loan for a solar project could be 25 years. For a large HVAC system or chiller that may have a 20 to 30-year life, you could have a PACE loan for as long as 20 to 35 years. On average, 20 years is what we typically see. And also, if there is senior debt or another loan on the property, then consent from that senior lender to the PACE assessment is a requirement. So how, looking at utility incentives, just on the SIR requirement. So again, 1 or greater is required to qualify for PACE. And the simple math is it's the savings divided by the cost. And here, the utility incentives, and Amy mentioned they might, appear to be modest compared to the overall project cost, but they can still be very important. So the example shown here, an HVC and lighting upgrade, the projected savings from this over the life of those projects is $450,000. The project cost on the first scenario, $500,000 with no utility incentives. And there, it does not meet the SIR. So this would not qualify for PACE. By accessing $50,000 in utility incentives, that now buys down the cost of the project, if you will, to $450,000, which now matches up with the savings and it clears that SIR hurdle. So here you have a $50,000 utility incentive that is leveraging $450,000 or $500,000 of project investment and $450,000 of savings. So as Amy mentioned, if a project qualifies for PACE, it very likely will qualify for utility incentives as well. They're very similar in the way that we qualify and the programs are designed. So this is a great opportunity that oftentimes is missed as PACE projects are developed. So examples of some of the projects in the state, urban and rural, every type of end use you can imagine, energy efficiency, water, distributed generation, smallest project, 68,000, largest 48 million. And all of these have received 100% financing through PACE. The project list is here on our website. You can go there and go to this drop down. You'll get this little ticker bar that counts up the projects. So the number of projects that have been closed, the dollar savings. We calculate job creation. So that's construction as well as in the case of, say, a hotel or hospitality. Those are new permanent jobs associated with that facility. Environmental impacts are calculated, energy savings, natural gas, and water. In some of the projects that have tied incentives from utilities together, this is a general store, obviously out in Elgin, Texas. This is kind of northeast of Austin. They wanted to add rooftop solar. It's a relatively new building. The lighting was in good shape. Other things really didn't need to be retrofit, but they wanted to add solar. So being a rural small business, they qualified for a grant through the USDA to offset part of this cost for $31,000. They also qualified, being in Encore's territory, for a $38,000 incentive through Encore, which brought the cost of the project down to where they only needed to finance $120,000 out of PACE. And the result here is about a 25%, 26% reduction in electricity consumption for the project. So stacking these incentives and financing the balance is the right approach, and they did that here. Another example, this is a conventional office building in Houston, built in the 80s, had aging mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, MEP, that needed to be replaced. So they did that, upgraded the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, HVAC, the building automation system, and then LED lighting retrofits. This qualified for a $30,000 utility incentive through CenterPoint, and the resulting PACE loan or assessment was $1.3 million that financed the balance and resulted in 38% utility savings annually. Another example, and this was actually the very first PACE project in the state. This is a synagogue, and houses of worship and nonprofits have been pretty active in taking advantage of PACE because they have cash flow challenges and they have capital improvement needs. So here they replaced the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, building automation system, and then added window film on west-facing walls because they're having temperature control issues with part of their building because they were getting a lot of solar in the afternoon, undesirable solar in the afternoon. So they secured a utility incentive here through Austin Energy for part of the cost, and then financed the balance through PACE, $450,000, and resulting in 20% annual savings. So another good example of really kind of stacking these things together. So resources where you can find more, our website, Texas PACE Authority. We link to EUMMOT, to the utility programs. As we were going through the webinar and thinking about the question about Pedernales, where those web pages exist for different co-ops, electric co-ops, and municipal utilities, I think we can create a resource and add those as well to make it easier to find those in one place. So we'll work on doing that. Our program guide and technical standards are listed or linked here as well. We do training and events like this. Those are all on the website. Also, where they're recorded, you can access the recordings in that same location. Case studies, the ones that I've shown you, plus many more, are there on the website as well to get a feel for how PACE has been used. And then if you're a contractor or a lender or other service provider wanting to get active in PACE, we have a listing here, and it describes the process for being listed as a service provider. So with that, we'll see if there's any additional questions. I've answered a couple on the fly. I don't see any others coming in right now.
Dub, I got a question.
Sure, Amy. Yep.
Via an email. Someone was saying, I think they went to the Texas efficiency website or maybe a utility website. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which, and didn't see much about the 2024 programs. So I just wanted to clarify that for folks. If you're interested in the 2024 programs, the best place to find those is to go through Texas Efficiency and access the individual utility websites. And those should take you to commercial and residential offerings per utility to get an understanding of, if money's available and how you can participate in those programs if you would like to. Another spot you can go to is in the annual EPR filings on the PUC website, also accessible from Texas Efficiency. But the 2024 filings aren't uploaded until after April 1st. So there is a little bit of weirdness at the beginning of each year where you're seeing 2023 stuff, but not quite 2024. And 2024 budgets and programs are technically official with the EPR and EECRF filings, the energy efficiency cost recovery filings, which are done either May 1st or June 1st, depending on if you're a non-ERCOT or ERCOT utility. So the information's out there. And so I just really want to encourage people to go to the utility websites to get the most up-to-date information. So I do appreciate that question. Thank you so much. And please feel free to email me if y'all have other questions like that, and I'm happy to help direct y'all to the right spots.
Good. Thanks, Amy. A couple other questions have come in. One of them, the webinar is recorded. That was a question. It's being recorded, and you will, if you're registered for the webinar and you're on today, you'll get an email from us with a link to that recording, as well as a copy of the slide deck. So yes, in case you have colleagues that missed it today, they'll be able to access it later. And then one other thing, we had not so much a question, but a comment that some cities, and this is on the water side, offer free water audits, and the state offers some energy audit programs as well. If you, most of the water systems are municipally operated, and yes, in many cases, the city water departments will do free energy water audits to help understand where there are problems, leakages in the system. They obviously are interested in finding leaks and reducing demand on water resources. So check with your local water utility on the water side. And then on the public sector side, the State Energy Conservation Office offers free energy assessments for public sector facilities throughout the state. So if you're a school, local government facility, state agency, et cetera, the State Energy Conservation Office offers that program. And so it can help provide a blueprint and an understanding of how your facilities are operating today, where there's opportunities to improve, and sort of a roadmap on how to move those projects forward. So thank you for mentioning that. All right, so with that, we are a little under our hour, so we'll give you roughly 15 minutes of your afternoon back. again, thank you for joining us today, and we will look for an email from us with a survey, with a link to the recording and with the slides. And we hope you'll join us on the next webinar. Amy, thank you for your time this afternoon, and thanks to all the EUMMOT folks and utilities that have been part of this.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.